Well, it is a rainy afternoon. I am off from school today and I'm pretty bored. So, what is there to do? Well, I'll do what I've always done on this channel recommend some books. Hello, everyone. Britton here, also known as Some Okie Dude, and today I'm coming back with another video. I wasn't really sure what to do this week, so I decided instead to do a video I've been kind of stalling for a while. It's actually an idea I borrowed from my friend Micah from The Wonder of Words. You can check him out before this was a video he did before he rebranded his channel as like a video essay. I don't really know what he's doing over there, but Micah's a cool guy. He has a great channel over there. I'll link him down below. But he did a video where he randomly recommended some books to some YouTubers that he liked, and I thought, that's a fun idea. Well, he also included me in that list, so thanks, Micah, if you watch this. But I thought that would be a pretty fun idea. You know, there's some books I would recommend to some specific booktubers that I'm a fan of, or even some friends of mine. Some of them are both people I am a fan of. I watch their channels quite a bit, and I'm also very happy to call them friends. So I have 8 books here today for 8 different YouTubers. I think these are books that they would be interested in reading. I hope that this video will be pretty good because, you know, this is one I've been thinking about for a while, so let's get into it before I start rambling for too long. Not really too much to say. Not much too else to say. I'm really tired. I can't really speak today. So the first person I got here today is Philip Chase, Dr. Philip Chase. He runs the Philip Chase Best of Fantasy. He talks about a lot of fantasy-related content. He's got a great channel. You should check him out. He has a very scholarly, serious approach to fantasy that I really enjoy. I've even had him on my channel a couple times. I'm even going to have him on again this Friday to talk about, well, I didn't record it. I'm not recording it this Friday. I'm just going to be uploading it this Friday, talking about the final book of his Dan trilogy. He's a great guy. One I decided to recommend to him. This actually took a bit because there were a couple I thought about recommending to him, but the one I settled on was, of course, Black Leopard, Red Wolf by Marlon James. Yeah, you knew this book was probably going to come up somewhere in this video. I recommended this to Philip specifically because I think he would be really interested in this book. I don't know if he'll like it, so I won't try to pitch it as, oh, Philip, you'll love this. But Philip, if you do watch this, I do think you'll find a lot to be interested in this. And I like to challenge myself, and I like to challenge the people I recommend books to sometimes. I know he is very much a medievalist in the sort of Beowulf, Scandinavian, Norse tradition in terms of what he likes to study, but this takes place in a ancient, mystical, medieval, I think medieval Africa, very much inspired by sword and sorcery as much as it is a epic fantasy. But I would really be curious to see Philip's reaction to not only the world of this book, but also the style of this book, because it's very different to what I imagine Philip Chase is very accustomed to with the medieval literature that he has studied and discussed on his channel. I think Black Leopard, Red Wolf would be something of interest to him. I hope he would at least respect it. It's a very surreal, very strange. The storytelling style can be daunting for people who don't understand it. I don't know how well Philip is versed in African mythology, but he does pull a lot from ancient mythology and kind of that oral storytelling tradition, so just in case he wants to get hyped up on this book. But I think he would find this book really interesting. There are a couple books I could have recommended to him, which I'll mention in this video, so just keep watching on. But I think Black Leopard, Red Wolf would be something that Philip would be interested in, and I would really like to see him read this. I think he would have a lot of fun discussing it, or at least reading it. At least I hope so. I really like what this does with the fantasy model. And I'm actually reading the sequel, Moon Witch Spider King, right now, which is proving really good on its own merits at the moment. So, yeah, Black Leopard, Red Wolf, that's for Philip Chase. Next book I have is from my friend Jordan at iWizard, iWizard is run by Jordan and his very lovely wife. I actually posted a video the other day of the J. Kristoff Empire of the Vampire, or Empire of the Damned, Empire of the Vampire, I think that's what they're called. And I thought for Jordan, I would recommend a book that is, again, would be really interesting. More of just, I would be interested to see how he reacts to it, because, well, he's very, if you notice on his channel, he has a very right-leaning sensibilities, and I decided to recommend him Perdido Street Station by China Mieville, which is very much a very left-wing inspired book. China Mieville is a well-known socialist, Marxist activist, and he has written even some nonfiction books about his leftist socialist interests, such as October and the recent A Spectre Haunting, which is about the Communist Manifesto. But don't worry, this isn't like communist propaganda or anything like that, but it is very much, it's very angry, it's very political, it's very interested in class warfare and class differences, and I would really be curious to see how Jordan would react to this, because, one, the political content, but two, it is also really different than what I would think he's accustomed to as a fantasy reader. The world of... I've talked about Perdido Street Station a lot on my channel, so I won't say too much that I haven't said already, but phenomenal storytelling, really great world. I really love the city of New Crobazon. It might be one of the most unique, strange, and bizarre fantasy settings that I've ever read in a fantasy. Easily one of the most original fantasies I've read in a while that isn't Black Leopard, Red Wolf, or American Gods or the like. But I really like what Mieville does here. I mean, do I agree with his politics? Hell no. I would say our politics are pretty 180. But I still really appreciate what China Mieville did in this book. I mean, I'll put it this way. How often do you read about political activism in a fantasy novel? Need I say more? But really, Jordan, I think you would find this book really fascinating, and I would really like to see your reaction to this book. Either this or The Scar, I think you would really appreciate it, or at least I think you would find it really interesting, coming from someone who has the opposite beliefs of someone like China Mieville. So Perdido Street Station is my recommendation for Jordan. I'll put that down. So, next one I have is actually for my BookTube uncle himself, John Minton, also known as Talking Story. You knew he would probably show up on this list. This was kind of hard, because he's actually pretty well read. Don't let his goofy uncle shenanigans fool you. He's a very remarkably well read man, and he's had a lot of life to live. So it was kind of hard to pick a book to recommend to him. But one I knew he would probably be interested in, and I actually offered him to read this book together for a buddy read, but unfortunately he declined because he was busy, and, I understand. I get it, Uncle John is very busy. But the book I'm going to recommend to you, though, I think is one you're going to like, and that is In the Valley of the Sun by Andy Davidson. I actually just recently read this for my Halloween readathon. It's a vampire book. I know that John really loves vampires. And this has a lot of vampires in it, and they're not like the dumb, sexy vampires from Twilight. I know everyone makes fun of Twilight, but it's easy. Twilight's pretty stupid. But In the Valley of the Sun has pretty scary vampires, and I really like how there's a lot of thematic stuff in this about how the vampires in this book almost sense the evil in regular people and kind of feed off of that, kind of really... It reimagines the vampire myth while also kind of bringing it back to form over what it explored in the first place about, sexuality and that kind of pure evil that you would find in something like Dracula. But it takes place in Texas, so I think you'll also appreciate that because you're also from Texas. I mean, it's a Texas vampire book. Do I really need to say more, Uncle? Give this book a try. It's really quite good. I am kind of saddened that we didn't get the buddy read this, but again, I understand you're busy. You have a bunch of other stuff going on in the BookTube sphere. But if you ever do get around to it, I would really love to hear your thoughts on In the Valley of the Sun, because I thought this was pretty good. And I think you'll get a lot out of this, because, I mean, it takes place in Texas. It's a vampire novel. Need I say more? I don't think I need to, so I'll just put that down and go on to the next book. The next recommendation I have is for my friend Jimmy at the Fantasy Network. This was another one that was really hard, because Jimmy is very well read, and he's also, he would probably deny this, but he is very well read, and he's read a lot, and it was really hard for me to find a book that he hadn't read yet, and it was really hard for me to find a book that would appeal to his interests. So I thought I would pick a pretty manly book for Jimmy, because, Jimmy likes a lot of manly books. He likes, Blood Meridian and Game of Thrones. Well, is Game of Thrones technically manly? I don't know. But he likes a lot of manly literature. And, he's into jiu-jitsu, or at least he was. He doesn't do jiu-jitsu anymore, but he did do jiu-jitsu. So I thought I would recommend him a book about fighting. It's not jiu-jitsu, unfortunately, but it's about fighting, and it's called The Fight by Norman Mailer. I think this would be of interest, because I liked this book when I read it. I read it earlier last year. It was one of those sports books I had always wanted to get to, and I liked it. It's basically Norman Mailer covering the, I think it was the Thrilla in Manila. It was the George Foreman Muhammad Ali fight. And it's a really, really well written, especially towards the end when you actually get to the fight, which probably has some of the best, boxing writing that I've seen in a very long time that isn't in The Black Dahlia by James Ellroy. Oh, shit, maybe I should have recommended James Ellroy. I think Jimmy would really like James Ellroy. But anyway, I'm recommending The Fight. It's about boxing, and I think Jimmy would really be interested in just the reporting, but also the fight, the build up to the fight, and ultimately the fight itself. The fight choreography in this is really well done, and Mailer writes the fight sequence between Foreman and Muhammad Ali with this really feverish intensity that really captures the legend of Muhammad Ali in a way that few people ever could, even in, his biographies. This might be one of my favorite books about Muhammad Ali, though I don't know if I would call this a favorite book of mine, but I did really like it, and I did do a review of it early on in the channel. But The Fight is a good book. I think Jimmy would appreciate it, so yeah, The Fight. I'll put that down now. Next book was another tough one, because this guy reads literally everything. I mean, my God, he reads even very obscure books that I'm like, literally nobody covers on BookTube. Like, he covered Hollow, and I had him on my channel to discuss Hollow. And that is Raph Blue Text. My buddy Raph, he's a good dude. I've had him on my channel a good couple of times. He's a great guy. I really enjoy hanging out with him. He has a lot of great insights about the fantasy genre, and also literature in general. Though, again, kind of like Jimmy, he would probably lightly push back on that. But I think he's great. He has a really great channel. He runs a lot of cool stuff over there. He talks about a lot of interesting books, even shit I've never even heard of. And even lesser-known fantasy and science fiction books, which I appreciate, because, there are certain books I wish are covered more often on BookTube, and Raph is one of the people who is holding the torch for fantasy literature, so I always appreciate that. But at the same time, it was really hard for me to pick a book that he hasn't read yet, because I'm like, Marlon James? No, he's read Marlon James already. Well, he hasn't read Black Leopard, Red Wolf, because he wants to wait for the whole series to come out. Again, I'm really tired today. It's been a crazy day. But the book I decided to give him, the book I decided to recommend to him, is one I think he would enjoy, and that is The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor LaValle. I know he likes a lot of angry political stuff. I don't know how political this is. Well, it is pretty political, but it is very angry, though. I think Raph will appreciate the craft of this book. It's a retelling of the horror at Red Hook by H.P. Lovecraft, which is notorious as one of the most egregiously racist stories that he has written. And even he would go on to admit that he didn't really think very fondly of that story. But Victor LaValle reimagines it, tells it from the perspective of the people that Lovecraft probably would have been afraid of. I actually did a review of this book recently on my channel. I think Raph would appreciate how Laval reimagines Lovecraft and reimagines the story of the horror at Red Hook and the themes of complicity and what does it mean to give up everything and why someone would join a group of cosmic eldritch beings. If Raph has read this book already, I give up, man. I don't know what to recommend you. I'm sure there's plenty of books that Raph has not read, but I don't know of very many of them, so Ballad of Black Tom is the best I got for right now. Next one I have is for Carlos and Yolanda at StoryTube. I actually haven't heard from them in a while, but Carlos, Yolanda, hello. I hope you guys are doing well. Congrats on getting the new jobs. I'm going to get a drink real quick. Sorry, I just kind of blanked there. Excuse me. But I wanted to recommend a book to you guys. But again, you guys read really widely. I mean, my God, you read a lot of stuff. You know, you read a lot of the people that I really like. You've read Lehane, you've read McCarthy, you read comics. So I'm like, shit, what have they not read? Well, I'm sure they haven't read a lot. But there's a lot of books that they've read, that I've read already, that I just am not sure what to recommend them. But considering our mutual love of comics and our mutual love of American literature, and I'm talking to Carlos specifically here, but I think Yolanda will appreciate this book too. But the book I decided to recommend was The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year. Really thoughtful, entertaining, heartfelt. It's a love letter to the creative process, but it's also a love letter to comics, and really explores the Jewish efforts and really shows how Jewish American comic creators really created American comics that we know and love today. And Michael Chabon is Jewish himself, so that also helps. But it's also just a beautiful story about these two guys just trying to make it in a world that's sometimes whimsical, often cruel, and they're trying to really make their way in the comics world. And if you guys know, if your comics history, you know that there are a lot of skeletons in the comic book closet. Well, the industry-wide anyway. And a lot of creators get screwed over. But the story does not go in a predictable way that I had suspected. And there were a lot of really surprising turns that this story took that were really strange, but also really touching at the same time. I really appreciated the craft that Chabon put. And it's one of those books that it really felt like Chabon was just having a blast writing this. And there's just a lot of joy and creativity and love that's put into this book. And most importantly, sincerity. Because if you're going to tell a good comic book story, you have to have a lot of that. But The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier Clay, really good book. I really enjoy it a lot, and I often find myself thinking back to it as I think about it more. But Carlos, Yolanda, I think you both would really like this. And Carlos especially, since I know you're kind of on the journey for great American novels, I think you'll appreciate The Amazing Adventures of Cavalier Clay. Hopefully you guys will get to it, and let me know what you guys think whenever you do. It's a really great book. And it deals with a subject that we are all three very passionate about. So I think you guys will at least enjoy it. If you don't enjoy it, then, like, I would, well, for one, I would be heartbroken. But also I would be shocked at the same time. But yeah, Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay. Give it a shot. Second to last one I have here today is for my buddy, the homie Darko at Kindles and Kicks. I thought this one would be a really interesting one, and that is Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. And I thought it would be interesting for him because James Baldwin was a gay black man living in the time when being black was there was a lot of racism, and also being gay, which is, you know, how do I put this delicately, was also not looked fondly upon. But James Baldwin was a writer who really had his heart, is one of those writers who really wears his heart on his sleeve. There's a lot of compassion in his work. There's a lot of emotion in his work. And Giovanni's Room is a really disturbing, often tragic, and sometimes moving story of a man who is in denial over his true orientation. Again, I'm sorry. I didn't sleep very well last night, so I'm sorry if I'm stumbling over myself. But Darko, I know that you are also a gay black man, and I was curious to see you read a book from a gay black man. I think you have mentioned wanting to read Baldwin, and I've only read one of his books. I'm actually hoping to read If Beale Street Could Talk next year, which I'm thinking of roping you in, by the way, so first announcement here. But I think you would really appreciate Giovanni's Room. I mean, I know I don't know if you've read Baldwin already, but Giovanni's Room might be my favorite novel of the LGBT plus experience that I've read. And Baldwin is just freaking amazing. I love his control of language. I love the delicacy of his language and the sensual nature of his language. And I hope you appreciate James Baldwin. If not for the story that he tells, just the way that he uses words. He is definitely one of the great American authors, and I've only read one of his books, so that should tell you all you need to know. But yeah, Giovanni's Room for Darko, I think he would enjoy it a lot, and I hope he does. I really would be disheartened if he didn't take to it, but I think he will. I think he will, Darko, and if you do get around to it, let me know. I would love to hear what you think of it. I actually want to reread that at some point, because it's been a while since I've read it. I haven't read it since I was in high school. The last book I have is for Brian at Bookish Texan, or Bookish is what he's called now. He makes a lot of videos talking a lot about a lot of literary fiction, so I tried to stay wary there, and I actually thought about giving him Amazing Adventures of Cavalier and Clay, but I decided against it. I thought Carlos and Yolanda would appreciate it more than him. But I know he has read some fantasy. He really likes the Dark Star books, Black Leopard, Red Wolf, and Moon Witch, Spider King, respectively. And I have heard him say in the past that he would like some more unique and strange fantasy, so I'm like, of course I had to recommend him this, and that is The Vor by the late Brian Catling. It was either this or Hollow, but I actually like The Vor more than Hollow. The Vor is a really strange, surreal, often dreamlike, and I don't use that word lightly, and it's very much dreamlike in a similar way that Black Leopard Red Wolf is, though this book is not nearly as feverish as Black Leopard Red Wolf is. But B. Catling, or Brian Catling for that matter, the man is a master stylist. He is a master at atmosphere, and I really love the themes that he's playing with here. I really like how he takes the kind of surrealism of Joseph Conrad's great Heart of Darkness and makes it more literal and basically turns it into a fantasy story. If this isn't the very unique oddball fantasy that you're looking for, Brian, then I don't really know what else to say. Alan Moore blurbed it, and that was what initially brought me to this book. But I think The Vor is an underappreciated book. I don't know if I'll call it masterpiece just yet, but it's definitely one of the most unique and bold fantasy novels that I've read in the past decade or so. I do agree with Moore. It should be a landmark of fantasy, and hopefully it will be in the future. So, yeah, Brian, recommending The Vor. So, yeah, I'll just put this down. And that is all I have for today. I won't go on for too much longer. I hope you guys enjoyed my recommendations, and I might do some more videos like this in the future if I'm not really feeling like doing any more structured videos. Perhaps I'll do some more random recommendations for booktubers that I like or I consider good friends. So everyone who I recommended books to, I hope that you guys read these books, and or if you have read these books already, let me know what you thought of them. I think that these books will be ones that you will at least find interesting or appreciate for whatever reason. And, yeah, so those are my recommendations for today. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Check me out on Twitter. You can also find me on Goodreads and Letterboxd, where I write reviews that are probably more coherent than the one you just heard right now. You can also find me on Instagram, Blue Sky, even though I barely use Blue Sky. You can also find me on Discord. I love hanging out with you guys on there. So join, hang out, do all that. And, as always, like, subscribe, leave comments. I really love getting them. As my buddy John Minton likes to say, it feels good when you press that like button. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, see you guys later.